And we will highlight the third round of the New Zealand Rally Championship in a moment. First, let's get some inside knowledge on what's happening. Quite a bit of interesting rally news around. It's a pleasure to have with us Marty Rostenberg. Marty, always good to see you. Welcome back.
Afternoon, Jeff.
Valentino Rossi, how good would that be?
Yes, well, it'd certainly be a bit of a coup for Subaru, and top marks to their marketing people. If they pull this off, it'll certainly be a coup. He
did find out, though, in 2002 in the Rally of Great Britain that it's not easy to make the switch because he ended up in a ditch.
That's right. Well, it's not an easy job to do, Jeff, hanging onto a car at 160 mile an hour on a loose metal gravel road, but he's certainly got the pedigree, and the doctor, he's had a go in a Formula 1 car recently with Ferrari, so I'm sure he'll be up to the challenge.
Do rally drivers take a kind of perverse pleasure when a motorsport icon in another area takes on their sport, and he's only human after all?
Well, you know, it is a humbling sort of an experience for some of those guys, but no, it'd be great to see him out here, and you know, if Subaru can pull that off, Jeff, then that'd be a great marketing coup for them.
As for the New Zealand round of the World Championship itself, some changes that will happen that will impact on New Zealand here, like remote servicing, for example.
That's right, and it'd be great to have that back for the New Zealand format. I mean, we've got some fantastic roads, and when they've got the central service park concept, it really does stop the organisers from getting out to where those fantastic roads are.
Hamilton's doing really well with motorsport, isn't it?
Well, it could be the motorsport city now with its bid for the V8 supercars, as well as being confirmed as around for the WRC this year. And good on them, having a supportive council obviously helps.
Interesting too, we've seen the calendar for 2007 with the World Rally Championship. I mean, Australia, which is a great event, misses out. Turkey misses out. Cyprus misses out. Just because we've got Maury Chandler there as the boss doesn't necessarily mean we hang on to ours either, does it?
That's dead right. I mean, we can't rest on Maury's laurels. He's most of his life he's spent on planes heading up to France and trying to stay in close with the decision makers of the sport, and certainly we can't rest on the laurels. But the Rally of New Zealand people, they know that, and they're always looking to try and offer something innovative and something new, and I guess they also did the two-round rally and rally sprint format recently.
All right, well, let's turn our attention now to the National Championship, round 3 in Northland. You were there. What were the conditions like?
Oh, they were absolutely fantastic, Jeff, and the racing was hard and fast, and what an incredible start, both off the track as well as on the track, when the Subaru team of Chris West were disqualified before the start of the race.
Now, for those who weren't quite up to speed with that was for...
That was there was some technical infringements made down at the previous round in Rotorua. Westy had some engine problems with his car, so the team obviously needed to do some work there. But unfortunately, they broke the seal, the technical department seal, before they repaired the engine, and that was deemed to have broken the rules, and they were penalised accordingly.
That's gutting, though. I mean, what does it do to a team when that happens?
Well, you know, you've got to really feel for Westy. He's the driver. He's not the guy who broke the seal or made the decisions for breaking the seal without getting the technical department there. But you know, New Zealand's only professional rally team making a mistake like that, it was an honest mistake, I think, Jeff. You know, I don't think there was anything too untoward going on, but a big mistake nonetheless, and good news for Richard Mason. It takes the pressure off.
Sure. All right, Marty, thanks for that. We'll come back and talk some more after we've seen the third round of the Rally Championship in Northland. Yes, Auckland's Chris West having to bounce back after losing all his championship points. And the interesting format too, 7 stages on day 1, the elimination rally sprint on day 2.
Round 3 of the Parker NZ New Zealand Rally Championship, in association with Vantage Aluminium Joinery, was based in Whangarei, the sunshine capital of Northland Province, about 2 hours north of Auckland. With the Propecia Rally New Zealand moving south this year to the Waikato, this rally would take up the roads previously used in the WRC, with a service park in the small town of Paparoa. A new format on trial 2, with day 1 featuring 7 stages on leg 1, but on the Sunday, leg 2 was replaced with a rally sprint. Richard Mason leads the championship after his win at Rally Rotorua and would start number 1 on the road, but thick gravel on the stage would see Mason acting as the road sweeper for the following cars.
We were going into the first stages tomorrow morning. We were just going to run an uncut tyre and maybe even a wider tyre, but now we might have to groove it and just to get down and sort of sweep that loose stuff aside and try and find some grip down below.
Sam Murray, currently in second place in the championship and starting at number 3 on the road, he was in a good position to step up the pace.
You know, we had a terrible run on the first day at Rotorua, and I honestly thought this is, you know, not the start we need for the championship, but through, you know, consistent times in the afternoon and managing to claw our way back and some bad luck on others' behalf, we've sort of managed to keep second. So if we can have a good clean run here this weekend and come away with some good points, then we're in a good position to attack for the last 3 rounds.
Winner Subaru New Zealand driver Chris West had a point to prove after his new car failed at Rotorua.
We were, fortunate. We got out in the forest last Wednesday and had a really, really good productive day, and pretty much just carried on from where we left at Rotorua, and we had everything working in the car fine, and we come out of there with some really good results, and we just need to put a practice tomorrow.
But West's Rally Championship aspirations were set back when he lost all championship points because the engine seal was broken during the rebuild without Motorsport New Zealand supervision. The other battle in the New Zealand Rally Championship is for the Kiwi too. Consistency had earned Aaron Cook the lead in the championship, but the pace setter had been Nissan driver Kane Barry, who trailed Cook by just 5 points.
We really need a class of win in the first leg and have Aaron finish second or worse. He's proven to be pretty consistent, so hopefully we can stay in front of him.
Friday night start for the rally at the Whangarei River, but as the cars are waved over the start, all thoughts are to the next day. Let's join Vantage Aluminium driver Emma Gilmore for a lowdown on the day ahead.
Today's stages we start with Bull Cassidy, which is a really long stage just to warm you up for the day. Fantastic stage with lots of different bits in it, nice, fast and flowing, and also quite tight technical areas, which sort of characterises all of the Rally New Zealand roads up here that we use. Then go into Whangarei, another 20-kilometre stage before we see our service crew at the first service. Then go back out, do another 4 stages, and again, total Rally New Zealand roads, really fantastic roads that if you don't enjoy driving these, you'll never enjoy rally driving.
Then 4 right, up. 6 right minus, then flat crest into 7 left plus.
We then have another service, and then we go back out and repeat the first stage that we did in the morning, 48 kilometres long, and I'm sure there'll be a change of results before the end of the stage.
And it's a long 48 Ks to get the rally going. Bull Cassidy is a classic WRC stage, last used in the 2004 Rally New Zealand. It's one of the longest stages in the championship. Richard Mason is the first on the road and the first to experience just how much the thick road metal would affect stage times. Joining me now, rally commentator Roger Davis. Roger, how much will the slow Mason down?
I would expect that this would slow Richard down quite a bit. Historically, when they've used this on the WRC, the number one car on the road has always been slow through these stages.
Our first stage split is at a short tarmac stretch, around 20 Ks into the stage, and it looks like Mason's left rear tyre is deflating. That is going to cost him. Back at the start, Chris West has to win here. Remember, all his points have been taken off his team. He has to put that aside and go to work.
Go.
Now this is where Chris West can make a real gain on Richard Mason. He's running number 2 on the road. Already on the road there you can see a groove that Richard's already made, so that's going to be a lot better for Chris. Another advantage for Chris West here is the stage length. It's 48 kilometres. Normally the first stage of the day is usually a short one. This is 48 kilometres, something Chris can put a buffer on Richard at the start.
So at the split, no surprise, West is ahead of Mason by 17 seconds. Sam Murray is next through and his split is just 6 seconds down on West, so he's not getting any advantage running 3 on the road. End of the stage and Mason's tyre is nearly off the rim.
Richard had a bit of a problem with the left rear.
We persevered. We've done about 20 to 25 Ks on the flat tyre, so we would have lost a fair bit of time.
So will Chris West take an early lead, or can Sam Murray keep him in check in his similar car?
4 left, 30.
Approaching the finish line now, and West's time is 32 minutes, 10.6 seconds. That's a lead of 1 minute 13 over Mason. Sam Murray comes home second fastest so far, but 24 seconds down on West.
The car was fine and everything went all right, but I just couldn't get a good flow and I was scrubbing off too much speed in some of those long corners, so have to improve. We want to get near Westy for the rest of the day.
Todd Borden in his older Subaru has held his own through the stage, and by the end is 20 seconds slower than Murray, but 45 seconds down on leader West.
but we tried very hard through there because I thought the road was good for us, but maybe wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be.
Once again, Dean Sumner is the best of the Mitsubishi drivers. There had been optimism that they could match the Subaru on these roads, but at stage end, he was 4th fastest, just 6 seconds behind Borden. And it's the Vantage Subaru of Emma Gilmore who rounds out the top 5, just 4 seconds down on Sumner, but 54 seconds behind West. So Mason's puncture has put him into 6th place, ahead of the Subaru of Glenn Smith. Talk of the road conditions at the beginning of the day had put Dylan Turner in a favourable position, running 10th on the road. And you can see from his onboard camera that the LJ Hooker car does have a clean line in the gravel.
Now, the key to driving on this road in Dylan Turner's position is to keep those wheels in the groove. The cars ahead of him have developed a nice groove. There's a nice racing line there for Dylan. As you can see it now, a very clear line on the road.
But Turner hasn't made any great gains from his road position, and by stage end, he is 8th fastest and has lost 1 minute 42 seconds over the 48 Ks. Hayden Padden missed round 2 at Rotorua, but the rookie South Island driver returned here and would slot into 9th. Brett Martin was 10th, slowed by an engine misfire. So at the end of the longest stage of the rally, West has the jump on the field, 24 seconds over Murray, but more significantly, he has a 1 minute 13 second lead and a 5-car buffer over main rival Richard Mason. Another stage before service though, stage 2, Whangarei, is 19 kilometres long and finishes on the famous railway bridge at Swamp Road. Mason is immediately back on the pace and posts a time of 11 minutes 30.2 as he slowly tries to claw back that lost time. But West is on a similar pace. And by the stage end, he is marginally faster at 11 minutes 29.4 to stay in the lead.
Minus 20 over finish 250.
Emma Gilmore upped the pace through here too, 3rd fastest and just 12 seconds slower than West. But Sam Murray was slower, 4th fastest, so he remains in 2nd overall, but is slipping further back from West. After a disappointing stage 1, Brett Martin poured on the pace to pick up 5th fastest and will be 9th overall after this stage. Todd Borden's 6th fastest time was 18 seconds down on West, but he was still faster than Sumner, so retained his 3rd overall, despite a spin in the stage which left his front bumper loose. But Sumner lost time on this stage and would slip back to 5th overall behind Gilmore. However, the time lost wasn't significant enough to let Mason move past him. So Mason remained 6th overall, 3.8 seconds behind Sumner and 42 seconds ahead of Glenn Smith, who was 8th fastest through the stage. But it's still Chris West who is leading the way. It's been a dominant performance from the Winger team after such a miserable start to the day.
First stage this morning, 48 Ks. A lot of people struggled through there, but you won the stage.
Yeah, it's a wee bit unpredictable. I think most people thought it'd actually sweep off, but from reports that we've had that it is actually cut up. So conditions are obviously going to be worse this afternoon than better than this morning.
Borden's crew had to repair the front bumper damage, but their driver was happy.
So it's the first time I've ever pushed hard, and I felt really comfortable there. It was good.
Back in the field, the Kiwi 2 battle was just as competitive as we've come to expect. Reigning champ Dave Strong was having a difficult time with a car that just didn't want to turn corners after they'd made changes to the front suspension.
Midway 3 left and 3 right. Out of the drive. 3 right and 4 left. 100.
By the end of Special Stage 2, he was third in the class, despite having more experience on these stages than most of his class competitors.
Minus tightens 1 right.
It won't drive straight. We've got a strut issue. It's breaking parts in the front suspension, basically, which has done it again. Therefore, the car won't drive straight. So you have difficulty grabbing the next gear. You're scared to take your hands off the steering wheel.
Kane Barry was the pace setter through both Stage 1 and Stage 2 and was in fact 15th overall amongst the production cars. Aaron Cook in the ex-Dave Strong Honda Jazz was second at the end of these stages, 30 seconds behind Barry and 14 seconds clear of the Strong Civic. And after showing great pace at Rotorua, the Peugeot of Nick Marshall was fourth in the class, just 8 seconds behind Strong. While James Holder had his Corolla in the top 5, a further 15 seconds back. Coming up, more air, more punctures, more surprises on the Northland roads. The action continues on the Northland roads at Rally Whangarei, round 3 of the Parker NZ New Zealand Rally Championship. In a new initiative for 2006, the Rally Company has introduced an historic class for pre-1987 rally cars, which will run to the same regulations of that era. Robert Murray was one of the first to enter the class in a truly historic car, which will revive old memories of Neil Allport's 1986 championship for many of the spectators.
Bert, it's a long time since we've seen this car in the National Rally Championship. It won 20 years ago.
Yeah, 1986, Neil won his first of 3 national championships in this car, and mostly in this area as well, so it's good to be back, good bit of history. It's been a great innovation by Motorsport New Zealand and the Rally Company to bring classics into the championship. It's only going to grow. It's big overseas now, behind WRC events in the UK, etc. They run, classic BDAs and stuff with the likes of Stig Blomqvist, etc. driving, so hopefully it'll grow here and it'll be really good for the sport.
And while no one is expecting the historics to be quite up to today's pace, Murray was 22nd overall after Stage 2 and well clear of his only competition in the class, the tiny Corolla of Keith Frankham. 4 stages now before the next service, and once again they are classic Rally New Zealand stages. Stage 3 Waipu Gorge climbs a hill from the town of Mangatoroto before winding through the gorge itself. Brooks is 16k of more open roads, sharing the final 4k with the end of Special Stage 2, and so finishing at the jump over the railway bridge. Stage 5 Millbrook was a new stage for the 2005 Rally New Zealand and features a spectacular downhill twist section at the halfway point. And finally, Waipu Caves, another 2005 stage which features a variety of road conditions, including 4Ks of tarmac toward the end. There was nothing Richard Mason could do after his Stage 1 time loss than push as hard as he could through these stages and try to climb up the leaderboard. Very heavy gravel here on Stage 3 made life difficult for everyone.
As you can see there, the gravel just flying off the car. That'll make it even trickier for Richard to make up time on Chris West, although Westy will have the same problem.
But on Stage 4, he finally won the stage and started to move up the leaderboard.
30.
Just how varied the road conditions were is illustrated here on board with Chris West.
Now just have a look at these onboard shots here. Really thick gravel on these roads. Now this is very hard for traction as Chris West is going up the uphill part of the start of the stage.
Short 3 right.
Now Chris West is going through the gorge section towards the end of the stage. Totally different road condition. You've got a hard base and then it goes into a soft base in certain places. Very tricky to drive on. It could catch some people out through here.
4 right plus 150.
West was fastest on Stage 3, but then second to Mason on Stage 4, but only by 3 seconds. As long as he held this pace, the rally win looked assured.
65 left minus.
It was the other top 5 contenders who would have to watch Mason. Dean Sumner certainly responded to the challenge. The Mitsubishi driver blasting through Stage 3, third fastest, just 5 seconds down on Mason and moving up to 4th. But on Stage 4, it was his turn for bad luck. Puncture losing him a minute and ending his challenge for a top 3 finish on this day as it dropped him back to 6th overall. Sam Murray was holding on to second with a fourth and a third on these stages. But significantly, Mason was now up to third, just 21 seconds behind, putting pressure on his main rival for this year's championship. So who were the losers in the wake of Mason's charge? Borden was now back in fourth, 12 seconds behind Mason, but he had plenty of pressure right behind.
Through there, you're 18 seconds down on West. I guess is an improvement.
Yeah, we're getting there, you know. We're going forward with our time, so which is good. So I'm feeling confident, a little bit more confident in the car and listening more. I think probably more of the fact.
Emma Gilmore had just been 0.1 of a second behind Sumner after stage 3, but with the ITM Mitsubishi puncturing, she was now working hard to catch Borden. By the end of 4, she was still 5th, but now just 1.2 seconds behind Borden.
Yeah, it must be getting close. We're sort of not too caught up in the battle, just concentrating trying to get the car right and getting comfortable again. But yeah, it was better that stage. I tried a different diff setting near the end and it felt a lot better, so it should be good these next 2 stages.
Glenn Smith was on his own in 7th, 22 seconds behind Sumner, but behind him 5 drivers battled out to be in the top 10. Dylan Turner was having a blow-by-blow battle with Brett Martin in similar Mitsubishi Evo 9s. However, Martin was running 4th on the road, so look at the gravel as he passes by on stage 3.
Now look at Dylan Turner here, Darcy. He's running 10th on the road. You can see a line has already formed from the previous cars, so that would be advantage Dylan Turner.
80. Long 4 left.
Now you can see here in stage 4, Dylan's got the same advantage. He's got a swept road. Now Dylan has to make advantage of this if he wants to be the leading Evo driver in this rally.
Get to that finish point. 250.
At the end of 4, it's Turner in 8th, but just 1.9 seconds back to Martin. Likewise in 10th place, Grant Barber was battling with young rookie Hayden Padden. On stage 3, it's Barber in 10th, but on 4, Padden overtakes him by just 3.7 seconds. So that gives Padden the rookie lead over Stuart Taylor in his Evo 9. So 2 more stages before service at Paparoa. After his setback at Rotorua and then the loss of all championship points, Chris West knew that his championship aspirations were all but over. But he and the Subaru New Zealand Rally team had put that behind them, and West was putting on a display of dominance. These are stages that require huge commitment from the driver and co-driver, with cambered corners on high crown roads demanding perfect placement of the car to get top speeds.
5 left.
He won both stages, stretching his lead a further 15 seconds. But that's not to say the others had given up. Sam Murray was hanging on to second, knowing that his challenge to Richard Mason for the title relies on him beating Mason. And while Murray was falling behind West, he was still ahead of Mason by 15.7 seconds at the second service break. Mason was slowly chipping away at Murray's second place for sure, but this was nothing like the dominant form which had taken the field apart with at Rotorua. Stage 5 saw Emma Gilmore rewarded with 4th place after she blitzed her nearest competition, Todd Borden, who dropped 6 seconds behind her to 5th. By stage 6, Gilmore had increased that to 13 seconds. Sumner led the following 5, but hadn't made up any ground after his puncture. Amazingly, despite losing that time, he was the first Mitsubishi, and those cars were expected to perform well on these roads. Glenn Smith was holding on to 7th and being chased down by the improving Evo 9 of Brett Martin. The Kiwi 2 class would thin out on these stages. Dave Strong was forced out when his fuel tank fell out at the end of stage 3. Leader Kane Barry was nearly 30 seconds in front of Cook by stage 5, but crashed on stage 6 and hurt his back, so would retire from the rally. And in a bizarre incident, Jason West disappeared after getting into trouble on stage 5. So that left Aaron Cook with a 17-second class lead over Nick Marshall in the Peugeot. So the results after special stage 6, Chris West extends his lead out over a minute, followed by Sam Murray, Richard Mason, Emma Gilmore taking 4th, and Todd Borden making up the top 5. So one more stage to run, but it's a big one. A rerun of Stage 1, Paul Cassidy. Unfortunately, Nick Marshall retired with a transmission problem, but it was James Holder who put in a fantastic drive to overtake Cook and take the Kiwi 2 win for Leg 1 by 6.7 seconds. Cook had to settle for second. And Glenn Inkster moved up 3 places to be the third Kiwi 2. Robert Murray brought the RX-7 home to claim victory in the classic class. Hayden Padden was the first rookie home in 10th position. Dylan Turner lost his battle with Brett Martin, finishing 9th, but Martin finished 8th, just 3 seconds behind the Subaru of Glenn Smith in 7th. Dean Sumner was still the first Mitsubishi in 6th, but it was an all-Subaru top 5 again. Todd Borden had put on wide 215 tyres, and by stage end, he was confident that he would have beaten Gilmore. But he'd have to settle for 5th, as Gilmore's decision to run narrow tyres paid off. Richard Mason would have to settle for 3rd place. He was trying hard, but 8 seconds separated him from Sam Murray by stage end. For Murray, 2nd place was great, but finishing ahead of Mason even more important for his championship aspirations.
Sam, looks like you held on to 2nd by 8 seconds.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever given myself so many frights. I tried pretty hard in there and I made a few mistakes and I thought it was going to be pretty touch and go. So, yeah, it's not pleasant pushing yourself, but thankfully we did that time.
And so Chris West, who started the day having lost all his points, finishes Leg 1 with a victory.
Chris, Richard might have got you in the last stage, but it looks like you brought it home 1st place for you.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's good for, lift the morals for the team, and, we can't be happier. It's what we should have started out at word go, but, hey, we can't look back and just got to look forward.
So at the end of Leg 1 of the Rally of Whangarei, Chris West with the victory over Sam Murray and Richard Mason, an unusual 3rd place. First Mitsubishi home at Dean Sumner in 6th and Hayden Padden in 10th, the number 1 rookie. And in the Kiwi 2 class, an unbelievable last-minute result for James Holder, holding off Aaron Cook to win Kiwi 2 in his Toyota. Coming up, a rally sprint around Paparoa to decide the winner of Leg 2 of the Rally of Whangarei. A new day and another fine one as the crews head out to Paparoa for the rally sprint. Let's check out the stage with our Vantage stage preview.
Today we had the rally sprint, which is a total change from what we did yesterday. 5 kilometre piece of road that we're going to learn it quickly so that we can go out there and go fast. The road's very, very technical, fast and flowing, lots of crests. There's also a section that's going to suffer from sunstrike, which will make it just a little bit trickier. As well as that, there's a psychological factor where only the top 8 fastest will go through, then the top 4, and then the top 2 for the overall winner.
Competitors had 4 runs over the road in which to post their quickest time, with the fastest 8 in production class and the fastest 8 in Kiwi 2 then fighting it out to see who would be the winner over the 5K stage. So after 4 runs, the top 8 in each class looked like this. Dave Strong heading off the Kiwi 2 Challenge, followed by Glenn Inkster and Nick Marshall. And the big boys, Chris West at number 1, followed by Brett Martin in the Mitsubishi, Richard Mason making up the top 3. And Todd Borden in the Subaru, the big loser.
Todd, you've been running in the top 5 all day, but when it came down to it, you missed out by 1 second.
Yeah, we had a bad run that one. I went wide in the intersection and lost 3 or 4 seconds, And I thought I was slower than the first time. I was too quick the time before. I slowed it back a bit, but it was still too quick. It's just a real deceiving corner,
Dean Sumner was the other first-round casualty, discovering early on how unforgiving these roads can be.
And flat crest, 30 to 5 left tightens off camber. That wasn't flat, bro.
So the eliminations continue. 8 goes to 4 in the Kiwi 2 class.
First up is Reg Cook and his Nissan Pulsar. We probably won't expect to see Reg go any further after this, as well as with Nathan Thomas as well. Reg and Nathan running about the same pace. This will probably be their last run of the day. Andrew Keeley in the Honda. He could actually make the top 4 if he tries hard enough, about 2 seconds off the pace at this stage. Next up is Aaron Cook. Now, it's crucial that Aaron gets into the top 4. He was running 5th in the preliminary, so Aaron really has to have the foot down. Nick Marshall, he's been a surprise package today. He's been the 4th fastest. Can he make the top 4? Glenn Inkster's been a surprise package today. He's been the 2nd fastest through the elimination runs. Can he make it through to the top 4? I think he would be able to. Now, the current leader is Dave Strong. He's the fastest through the elimination runs earlier on. He's a full 1 second quicker than anyone else. Now, Dave's very familiar with rally sprinting. As you can see here, like I said, he's a second quicker than anyone else. His experience has come into play here.
So then there were 4. Glenn Inkster the quickest through in the second round, followed by Nick Marshall, Dave Strong and Aaron Cook.
We've got some major problems, so it's a bit of a kick, but that's it.
What's the major problems, Dave?
Well, no third gear at all. I've been struggling with it a little bit, being slow to get in, but now is making a lot of noise and there's no drive.
Aaron, you're into the top 4. You've just made it.
Yeah, just snuck through, so that's good. We'll just have to try and keep everything smooth and get a bit faster.
Can you get into the top 2?
Don't know about the top 2. Definitely try for 3rd and see what we can pull out.
Nick, you made the final 4. You're the 2nd fastest at this stage.
Yeah, we've had a few problems. We broke another anti-roll bar link, so the car's not sitting that well on the road, but it's a good car even without the anti-roll bar, so I think we've got a good shot.
Glenn, looks like your rally experience is coming to the fore. You're the quickest into the final 4.
Yeah, it's knowing where we're going a little bit's helping. Throughout the year, we've always struggled with the steering in this car, and when you know where the corner's going, you don't have to use the steering as much, and it's not jamming up like it has done in the past. It all comes down to this run, though, doesn't it? That's the beauty of rally sprints, the pressure. It's quite enjoyable, to be fair.
Now onto production cars, and Glenn Smith is first up in the Subaru. Now, he was 8th quickest, so the pressure's really on Glenn. Next up is South Island driver Hayden Patton. This will be unusual for Hayden. He's probably never done anything like this before in his short rally career. The pressure's really on this man, Sam Murray. 6th fastest at the moment. He has to get up in the top 4. If Sam doesn't do that, he will lose valuable points in the championship. Next up is Emma Gilmore. Emma qualified 4th fastest in the preliminary rounds. Can she retain that and get into the final 4? Dylan Turner's been the big surprise package today. He's the 3rd fastest in the preliminary rounds. Looks like he could possibly make the top 4. For drivers like Dylan Turner, who's not that experienced on pace notes, a rally sprint is a great thing for him because he gets to go over the roads time and time again and faster. And Dylan is very experienced at it.
That's all right.
Current championship leader Richard Mason. The pressure's really on Richard. He was the 5th fastest in the preliminary qualifying this morning. He's got to step up his game. Brett Martin, on the other hand, has been a big surprise package. He was the 2nd quickest coming into this. Can he make the top 4? I think he can, driving like this. And And this is a man on a mission. See that, Darcy? West is trying.
Absolutely trying. He's driving it like he stole it around the roads of Northland.
Chris West has been a pace setter all day. He's been 2 seconds quicker than anyone today. All he has to do is stay there, and it's his.
So the results after the next round of knockout: Chris West devastating in the lead ahead of Brett Martin, a surprise package, Richard Mason, who we expected would be there, and Dylan Turner in the Mitsubishi making up the final four.
Pressure on a little bit?
Yeah, the pressure's always on. It's pretty cutthroat. You know, it's a simple mistake. You know, a wee bit wide on one corner, and you know, to be fair, probably our last 2 runs haven't been the tidiest. And maybe there's a little bit of pressure. You want to keep it on the centre of the road and really concentrate on getting that drive line and carrying the speed through the corner. So we'll just keep doing what we're doing and hopefully we can get through.
We lost a little bit of time on the start line on the last run, and there's a couple of corners I was a bit untidy, and you got to get everything right in a rally sprint to make it work just right, and that's what it is now. Just find every last little bit you can and keep it tidy and keep your foot hard down and foot off the brake, and it's all that stuff,
Coming up next, the pointed end of Rally Whangarei. Who's going to win in the mud of Northland? Welcome back. Time now for 4 to become 2 as we look for the top 2 in Kiwi 2.
First up is Aaron Cook in the Honda Jazz. Now this is the ex-Dave Strong car. Now Aaron Cook, he was the 4th fastest going into this run as he comes up to the split. What will he do? 2:01 for Aaron Cook. Can he get through to the final 4? He's really going to have to push in this last section. Waiting at the start now is Dave Strong. Dave Strong would have been the favourite to win this class, but he's got a problem with the gearbox. Let's just have a listen.
30, 6 right, 5 right over crest end, 80. To a 4 left plus, 4 left minus.
You can hear the problem there with Dave when he changed gear. A lot of drops and revolutions. He's going to have to carry a fair bit of momentum through this circuit to get into the top 2. Coming up to the split of the stage, what can Dave do?
And 35 right minus, close.
1:59.4, that's impressive. 1.6 quicker than Aaron Cook. Aaron Cook's really going to have to push hard in the second part of the course to get through to the final 2. Aaron, we had Dave Strong, 1.6 quicker than you at the split.
Oh yeah, we had a bit of a bad start, but the end was pretty good, so we'll see what happens at the end.
Now back on board with Dave Strong. He's coming towards the end of the course.
And 50, 4 left opens to finish.
Listen to that car. Dave's right on the rev limiter. Over the finish line. 3:18.89. Slower than Cook.
That was a very good time, actually.
What do we make?
My watch says 3:18.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Next up is Nick Marshall. Nick Marshall qualified 2nd fastest in the previous run, which is a little bit of a surprise, but it will probably suit this car. He goes through the split, and he's quicker than Cook, but a little bit slower than Strong. Now on the start line is the fastest qualifier, Glenn Inkster. Away he goes. He's 2 seconds quicker than anyone else at the moment. You can see Glenn, nice smooth lines through there. Tends to brake a little bit earlier and carry a bit of momentum speed off the turn. Back with Nick Marshall. What a great sounding car this is. Nick, the other 2 are a bit quicker. You're out.
Yeah, we had a half spin, a big slide sideways around a tightening corner, and only just got it back, so we, I don't know, maybe lost 1 or 2 seconds. I don't know, but I tried hard to get it back, but we just couldn't.
So Glenn Inkster, what will his split time be? 1:58.0. That's 1.4 seconds quicker than Strong. He's on the pace. Glenn, top qualifier, you're in the final 2. You're 5 seconds quicker than last time.
Yeah, last time was a bit scrappy, and that was not far off as fast as we could go. Really quite happy with it, to be fair.
So when push comes to shove, it was Glenn and Aaron who did the shoving. Inkster in the number 1 spot, followed up by Aaron Cook. So time now for the production cars to strut their stuff on the back roads of Northland.
First up, it's Dylan Turner. Dylan is the surprise package here. Let's sit back and go on board with him. See how tricky the road is here up north.
5 left, 30, 6 right minus, tightens to a 5 over a crest, 80, short 4 left plus, tightens to a minus, 120. Whoa.
He's got it all wrong there.
Come on. That's correct. Yeah, that's us.
Yes, Dylan, you just blew it. Next on the course is Richard Mason. A little bit of pressure on Richard Mason at the moment. He's third fastest going into this run. He has to get into the final 2. He's going to have to push this little car. Let's go on board with Richard and just see how tricky this road is. A lot of crest, a lot of off-camber conditions. See Richard carrying a lot of speed through there. Oh, he's just missed a gear as he comes up to the split. 1:48.0 is Richard's time at the split. Now on the course, second fastest qualifier, Brett Martin. He got a little bit close to that bank. I hope he hasn't done any damage to the car. Yes, he has. You can see there he's ripped the rear bumper off the car. It won't slow him down. Go coming up to the split. 0.5 quicker than Richard Mason at this stage. Now Richard's really got to push on at the latter part of the course here. The pressure's on him. 3:03.65. Will that be enough for Richard to get into the final 2? Richard, I had you 1 second down on Brett Martin at the split.
Oh dear. Yeah, no, too many silly mistakes, that's for sure, especially at the start of the stage, so we'll see how we go.
Brett Martin coming towards the end of his run here. Can he carry that speed? He was a little bit quicker than Richard at the split.
50. And then 6 left, don't cut. Opens 30 over finish to a 180. Go. That's it.
3:04.48. He's gone slower than Mason.
Lost it on those 2 touches.
Next up is the fastest qualifier, Chris West. Provided he's quicker than Brett Martin, he will be into the final with Richard Mason. Hits the bank a little bit there. I think he's been doing that all day, though.
Into caution, 5 right minus, keep in on crest, then to sudden 2 left in junction, then 2, 4 right minus long cut, then 2, 6 left.
Beautiful smooth lines through there for Chris West. Coming up to the split board.
2, 4 left minus long.
1:47.0, 0.5 quicker than Martin. He's a whole second quicker than Richard Mason at this stage.
Then 2, 4 left, keep in and open.
Look at the concentration on Chris's face as he's coming up towards the finish here. 3:02.32. Now that's just over a second quicker than anyone else. Chris West is into the final with Richard Mason. Chris, you're the fastest so far, but you run off against Richard Mason for the final.
Yeah, it's good. Like Richard's, we knew that he'd wait and put the best in last. So hopefully, we've got enough to just keep him honest on this final run.
So the 2 old foes end up 1 and 2. Chris West versus Richard Mason for all of the spoils. Brett Martin and Dylan Turner bow out. Of course, there were only 2 cars in the classic class. It was the Mazda RX-7 against the Toyota.
Yes, Darcy, it's great to see these classic cars back in the New Zealand Rally Championship. And here's the winner, Mazda RX-7 driver, Robert Murray. He won yesterday, won the rally sprint today in a 3-minute 24 seconds.
So, pressure makes diamonds. Who's going to come out shining, Glenn Inkster or Aaron Cook?
4 left into 4 right.
Aaron Cook really has to put the foot down now. Glenn Inkster was 2 seconds quicker in the previous run. Nice smooth line there for Aaron Cook. He's midway through the stage now. Aaron Cook's been one of the finds, or been probably the find this year. In his rookie year, he's already leading the Kiwi 2 class. Aaron, big improvement, 3 seconds quicker than the last one.
Yeah, we had a pretty good run. We know the road quite well now and can push really hard. That'll put a lot of pressure on Glenn Inkster. Yeah, we missed one gear change, so we give him a little bit of breathing space, I guess.
Glenn Inkster on the course now. Can he beat Aaron Cook's time of 3:15.43? He went slightly slower in the previous run. On the rev limiter there. Coming up to the split, 1:57.6. That's 1.4 seconds quicker than Aaron Cook. All Glenn has to do now is keep the thing tidy to bring it home.
Glenn, we had your 1.5 up at the split, and you've just won at 3:12. You're 3 seconds quicker.
Yeah, we're pretty stoked, eh? That's awesome. I thought we couldn't go faster last time. We just went faster. It's awesome, eh? I'm very, very happy. Very happy for myself and Goldie, but also very happy for the crew who've worked so hard to get this car to work properly. And today it's all come good, and all the people that supported me, SMC Pneumatics, especially Etco, they provide electrical apprenticeships, and mate, without them I couldn't be here today, and I'm just absolutely over the moon, eh?
Glenn Inkster, a very happy man, along with co-driver Glenn Goldring, taking out the Kiwi 2 class. But now it's time for the big boys to shine. Chris West versus Richard Mason. The two blue Subies going head-to-head in the final run.
Let's take a look at Richard Mason's commitment as he tackles these crests. Richard Mason, the pressure is really on him. Chris West has been probably 1 or 2 seconds quicker all day. Can he make something of this run? Richard looks a little bit slower coming through on this run through the junction. Coming up to the split, what's the benchmark time? 1:46.5. Now on the course is Chris West. Once again, Westy getting a little bit close to that bank.
Into 6 left plus, into caution 5 right minus, keep in on crest, into sudden 2 left in junction, into 4 right minus, cut long.
Coming up to the split, what can he do?
6 left plus and 5 right minus, keep in, into 4
1:46.1, he's 0.4 quicker than Mason. Now Richard coming up to the end of the course. As Richard comes up to the finish line, 3 minutes 0.6 of a second. That's nearly 3 seconds quicker than the previous run. Richard, we got you 3 seconds quicker through on this run. Have you done enough?
I don't know. Like the road was a bit better, and we've tried hard. At the same time, I tried to tidy it up and make a good run. I think we did do a good job of our drive. So it really depends on how good Westy goes.
Chris West, he was 0.4 of a second quicker at the split. It's pretty close between these two. Also, can he be the first man to get under 3 minutes?
Plus into 5 left plus, cut 60. 4 right plus, keep in. Into 5 left long, tightens that white box. Into 4 left, keep in, opens over finish, 180.
Up over the finish line, he's really trying through there. 2:59.72. And under 3 minutes as well. Chris West, Garrick Cowan, winner of the rally sprint and winner of the Whangarei rally. Chris, we had your 0.35 at the split. You've just come in at 2:59. You've won the day.
Yeah, it's great. It's it's just a real credit to everyone that stuck their neck out. Excuse me, over the last 3 or 4 days, helping us, and we really had to rely on some of my work colleagues, and everyone's just chipped in over the weekend, and this is the way the team should be running, and hopefully it'll continue like this for the rest of the year.
So after a tragic start to the weekend where Chris West lost all of his championship points, he comes through with a maximum 64 for the round, but still leading Richard Mason on 178. Now on to the Kiwi 2's Aaron Cook leading the championship on 154 points. He's got a great buffer over Glenn Inkster and James Holder. So Chris West gets to celebrate in style with the Daniel Lebrun. And speaking of wine, it's wine country we head to next. Round 4 of the Parker NZ New Zealand Rally Championship in association with Vantage Aluminium Joinery.
Chris West with his season torn apart by losing his points from the first 2 rounds, giving the perfect answer. He did say afterwards that he didn't mind the rally sprint, but he didn't think it should be part of the National Championship. Well, Marty Rostenberg, what do you think?
Well, rally sprints are certainly exciting, Jeff, and they're the guys are living and dying by tenths of seconds. But it is called the New Zealand Rally Championship, not the Rally Sprint Championship. And I think they need to come up with some fresh and innovative ideas to make rallying a little bit more media and spectator and corporate friendly. And that was certainly a step in the right direction. Perhaps a little bit of fine-tuning's needed to get the format dead right, and maybe it could be total elapsed time after each run.
You were in that rally sprint, but not part of the championship, so we didn't see you taking part. How did it feel? What was it like?
I mean, the whole format of rally sprinting and that cutthroat format where you live or die by hundredths or tenths of seconds, it's really exciting towards the end of the day. And my Brookby neighbour Andrew Hawkswood was there, so our tug of war of Brookby continued, and Andrew drove like the man possessed that he is and managed to beat us by a second as well.
Were you surprised the rally contenders were so close to you in speed?
Well, that was the big thing, Jeff. I mean, both Andrew and I thought that we'd have the speed over the Group N cars because we've got a lot more power than they have. But like Westy was only a second behind us and Richard a second behind him, and we have twice as much horsepower as those guys, so you really have to take your hats off to those drivers and to see the latest advances in technology and how quick they go.
What about Chris West? He cut some corners, didn't he?
Yes, he's definitely a corner cutter, and the time he kept clipping the bank on the exit of that right-hander. But he's a man on a mission, Westy, and he's got a good car and a good team behind him.
Well, we'll talk about Hawke's Bay and what's to come in a moment, but just before we leave Northland, the front wheel guys, the K2s, they did really well too.
Yeah, did right, and it's good to see those guys getting a bit more reward and a bit more media attention for their efforts. It's not the biggest budget there, but it's very, very competitive. There's been the old bulls in terms of Dave Strong and the young bull as far as Aaron Cox is concerned. Normally the old bull gets it over the young bull, but so far the vote's in favour of Aaron, Jeff.
You may be getting a call from Mr Strong in the immediate future.
That's right.
As far as Hawke's Bay is concerned, then what are you expecting there, round 4 of the championship?
Yeah, well, it's at an interesting stage now. We've done half the championship, another 3 rounds to go. Westy's given himself a bit of an uppercut in terms of the championship, but the egos might come into play here a little bit because Richard will still want to demonstrate that he's the fastest driver, even if Chris is no longer a threat to him in the championship. Now, sitting in the wings of all of that is Sam Murray, who's been getting faster, and he just needs to do a bit more work on his consistency. And if the other two get caught up in a scrap, then who knows what's going to happen.
And what does Richard Mason do? Does he drive to win the rallies, or does he drive conservatively with the championship in mind?
Well, I mean,
what would you do?
Well, you've seen what Richard's like, and he's a take-no-prisoners kind of guy, but try and have as much fun and go as fast as he can. So, I mean, if he drove with his head, he should probably not worry too much about Westy's speed, but it's all about having fun and trying your hardest as well, so...
I'm not sure you answered that question, but perhaps we have to leave it there, unfortunately. Marty, great to see you as always. Thanks very much.
Jeff.
All right, Chris West then coming back strongly to win the 3rd round of the National Rally Championship, having lost his points from the 2 previous rounds. And that was a good, gutsy effort considering all the points that he lost. Now, the 4th round of the Championship, Rally of Hawke's Bay, in a couple of weeks. Almost time to go. Before we do, looking at motorsport you can support around the country next weekend. And on Saturday, there's the Motorcycle Club Race meeting at Manfield, Interclub Sprints at the Powerbuilt Raceway, run by the Canterbury Car Club, and a Seal Sprint in Dunedin, hosted by the Otago Sports Club. On Sunday the 23rd, a rally sprint at the Pukekohe Raceway, Intermark Sprints at Manfield. There are gravel sprints in Nelson, Rangiora and Dunedin, and a busy weekend at the Powerbuilt Raceway with a Motorcycle Club Race meeting as well. So terrific news today for New Zealand driver Scott Dixon in the States. This afternoon he has won the Nashville event in the Indy cars and is now right in the hunt as a championship contender. And he comes away from Nashville with a guitar. Perfectly understandable if you win a race in a place like Nashville and come away with a guitar as a trophy. Dixon starting from the 2nd row, and he is very much on song in Nashville. That race is highlighted on One Sport Motorsport next week. From 3 o'clock, round 9 of the MX1 World Championship, New Zealand's Josh Coppins is back. He's ready to show what we've been missing. There's top New Zealand talent on show all afternoon. Round 9 of the Indy cars at Nashville. Scott Dixon starting from the 2nd row. And no shortage of New Zealand talent on view in the V8 Supercars. Round 6 from Queensland next week on One Sport Motorsport. And the V8 Supercar drivers will be delighted with news that the reverse grid format has been abandoned. You may remember we had Greg Murphy and Paul Radisich and Jason Richards in for a chat before the Pukekohe round. All three of them panned the whole idea. Now V8 Supercars Australia has caught up with the general feeling and dumped the reverse grid format. I hope you can join us next week. It should be a great show. Stay with us for One News, which is next. Good evening to you.